Today, I'm going to show you the technique that I use to lay out serpentine stamps to make sure they're as close to perfect as possible. That's coming up. Hello everyone, my name is Daniel Reitz. This is Weaver Leather Supply. Today, we're going to be talking about a technique that makes laying out a serpentine stamp so much easier. Now, first, I guess we need to answer the question, what is a serpentine stamp? Well, it's a way of laying out a series of stamps that creates a snake-like ribbon between the two of them. In fact, you can see it in this picture right here. One of the big challenges with a serpentine stamp is getting that center ribbon the right size. Now, if you get it a little too skinny or a little too wide, it's going to look funny. And that kind of begs the question, well, what's the right size? You know, is it what's too skinny, what's too wide? Well, that's going to depend on your personality and the project that you're working on. But for me, a good general rule is 4 to 5 millimeters is about where I want the width on that center ribbon to sit. Now, if inches, decimals, fractions, whatever works better for you, go for that. But for me, it just works better in my brain with millimeters. So I go for about the 4 to 5 millimeter range, somewhere around in there. First thing that we're going to need to do is take our wing dividers and scribe in that baseline. That's what we're going to use for the main line, that foundation for the first row of stamps. Now, if you need more information on how to use wing dividers, we've got a video on that. I'll make sure we've got a link in the description. After that, we need to know how wide the stamp is that we're going to be using. And this is the one that we're using right here. There'll be a link in the description if you want one. But this particular stamp is 13.58 millimeters wide. Everything is going to be based off of that. I promise you, I'm not going to ask you to do a lot of math, but there's a little bit of very basic math here that we have to do. The stamp is 13.5 millimeters wide, right, or tall. We want a 4 millimeter ribbon. So we take 13.5, add 4 to it, we end up with 17.5. We want to set our wing dividers to 17.5 millimeters. I'm going to take one tine and put it on that first baseline that we drew, and then I'm going to use the other tine of my wing dividers to leave a really light mark on the leather. That's where we're going to want our second line to sit, but before we do that, we need to reset our wing dividers. So to reset them, we're going to put one tine on the outside of the leather, and then we're going to adjust it so that that other tine matches up with the mark that we just left. That will give us the ability to take our wing dividers and run the edge of the leather and put a line exactly where we want it, 17.5 millimeters away from the first one that we created. With that done, we can go ahead and cut in both lines. If you want to, you can bevel the lines for sure. Then we can add that first row of stamps. When you're ready to start that second row of stamps, make sure that you take your time and line it up correctly. We really want it to be centered in that original row of stamps that we laid down. And that first stamp on the second row is going to set the spacing for all the other ones. So make sure you line it up as close to centered as you can. So as you're running the stamps, there's a few things that you're going to want to pay attention to. First, is the base of the stamp resting on the baseline that we've created? Number 2, is it sitting cleanly on the line or is it twisted one direction or the other? And number 3, is it centered between the corresponding stamps on that original line that we created? So don't be surprised if that second line takes you a lot longer to run than the first line did. You've got a lot more to pay attention to. Just take your time, make sure you pay attention to those three things, especially that it's centered correctly, and you'll end up with a beautiful pattern. Well, that's going to do it for this video. I will see you in the next one. In the meantime, go make something amazing.